Hello, everyone. So welcome back, or I guess if you just stick around here, hello again. So our last speaker for today is Bence Faludi, and he'll be speaking about extract, transform, load using mETL. Take it away.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Bence Faludi, and today's topic is the mETL extract, transform, load application. Let's start. The main web page of this software is on follow here. So it's called mETL.mito.hu. You can check it, and you will find the link to the repository here. And you can find the documentation as well. And of course, before we start, please everybody download the exercises. The link is here below. Okay. This link will shown in every page in the following. And while you're downloading the exercises, I will introduce my company and myself. Okay, so I'm working at Mito. This is a Budapest-based agency. It's a digital powerhouse. That's all. It's founded in 2008 with two simple objectives: to create clever things and to assemble a really great team with many different competencies. So because of these competencies, we have so many different fields and departments in our company. For example, we have a UX division, we have really good graphic designers, development team, social media engineers, and of course, there is the data and the CRM team as well. Of course, because we have operating in so much and so different fields as well, we have so many clients as well. For example, our clients is the Wizz Air, the Aldi, the McDonald's, the Nissan, and so on. And actually in our department, because I'm coming from the data department, we're creating data warehouses, maintaining, designing it, data cleansing for mostly in the whole Central European region, and creating reporting, and of course, we writing and creating BI softwares. So about myself. As I mentioned before, my name is Bence. I'm a senior database manager in this company, and I am the organizer of the Budapest Database meetup located in Budapest. So if you're planning to visit Budapest, just say hello and come to one of our meetups. As I mentioned before, our department is creating BI software, so I am one of the developers who actually do that. And we're working in Python and Go languages. So the software I actually going to talk today is the mETL. You can see the link here as well, if you didn't open it already. So, but what this software is actually, so what is it? I mentioned this is a extract, transform, load application. It's created for the Central European University to load elective data. The whole thing is started because the Central European University wanted a software to load elective data into their own data warehouse. The problem was they wanted a software written in Python. So we make some kind of research previously, and we found one software, it's called Brewery. We checked the software, but the problem was it not was able to handle all of these necessary steps they wanted to. So we're looking forward, but we didn't find nothing. So that was the point when we actually start to think, okay, we need to develop our own ETL product. So the inspiration coming from the Brewery, because it was good, but just a little bit limited. And of course the Kettle, because the Kettle is almost, I think, the most popular and I think almost the best ETL system in currently. So this software was founded by the European Union and written in Python. And our purpose and our destination was to create a software that's really easy to configure. So you don't need to download the whole software, and you don't need a Windows or something to configure the whole package. You can use it really easily. So that was the main point. And the whole thing started at last year, around this time. So at May, we actually released the first public release. And end of this year, we want to create the adding really new features of it and want to recruit new contributors. Actually, we have right now about 1,500 downloads per month. So I think that's a really good amount of downloads. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we just released the 1.0 stable version of the software. And we write a whole English specification for it. And the specification is over 80 pages. So it's a lot. And it's a really great specification. So it's really good to start with it. But what is the features in this software? So it's right now handle 9 different source types and 11 target types. We have over 30 built-in transformations. The configuration is working by a YAML format. The software can check the differences between different migrations and can generate migration files as well, and really easy to extend. The software is an open source project, so really easy to extend and write your own manipulations or your transformations. Okay, the basics of this application. You can install this application by calling and execute this command, just easy install mETL or pip install mETL if you're using pip as your primary package manager. Please run this command if you haven't installed this application. It should work. And we're going further. Okay, I think you could, yes?
In the meantime, would you just look at and show the Git URL again once again?
Sorry?
Would you show the Git URL again?
Of course. But you can find the Git URL in here. So if you open this page, you can go to the GitHub URL.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay. So if you install this application, let's talk about the basics. Which components this program actually contains. So we have 2 main components. The first is the source, and the second is the target. You can imagine the source as like the data you want to retrieve. So it could be an Excel file, or a CSV file, or a database, or a JSON, or almost anything. It could be actually an URL for the given object as well. And the target is that object what will save this information into the end target. So it could be as well a database or a Neo4j, a Grave database, or almost anything. Okay, so these are the base 2 components. Let's see a little bit more detailed in the first one. So the source has 3, sorry?
Sorry, one issue with the pip install.
Okay.
It,
Okay.
It says it couldn't find a version that satisfies the requirement from versions, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, it could happen because currently mETL is only supports 2.7 Python version. I don't know what Python version that you're using. If you're using 3, it could be a problem.
You can use the --pre switch.
You say it works for 3, not for 2.7?
No, it's working 2.7, not for 3.0. Okay, I cannot see. Okay, so back for the 2 main components we have. So this was the source and the target, and the source has 3 responsibilities. The first, to define the source type. So this is the data type you want to retrieve from. So it could be a CSV file, a database, or almost anything. And you need to describe the fields you want to read, because it can't load automatically and define what kind of fields could contain that kind of file. So you need to describe the fields you want to use. And the third one, you need to define the mapping between these fields and the data which is located in somewhere in the file. So as I mentioned, so you can define the source type. And not only just the source type, you have to define their own settings as well. For example, in a CSV file, you can use different delimiters or quotes as well. Or maybe in an Excel file, you need to define the sheet name. Or for example, a database, you need to define the URL you want to use to connect the database and maybe the table you want to retrieve the data. And the second was the fields. You need to define each field, and each field has their own unique name, and you can define for a type for it. Because the type is necessary, because if you want to add a number from a string, it could be a problem. So you need to define a type as well. And you can define transformations for each field. And these transformations we run individually for each field. So the fields can't interact to each other in this point. And the third one is the mapping. So this is mostly just a pass to the data. You can find the actual useful information. There is some example for it. So for example, if you're using a CSV file, you have normal structured data like in an Excel. So you have columns. And for example, if you're looking for the country code, it will be 0 because it's founded in the first column, and we're starting our numbering from 0. The gender is founded in this example in the 4th column, so the map will be 3. But of course, we have some kind of files, for example, multidimensional JSON files, where if we want to define what is the name attribute actually, it's the response under the menu and under the name. So it will be the name attribute. And the phone number could be defined as the response per venue, per contact, per phone. So on. This is the mapping. You can use almost any kind of mapping. So you can use list values, you can use ranges, you can convert some data in the mapping scope into lists. So if it was a normal dictionary, you can convert it into list as well. And the workflow is really easy. So we read the data from the file. It's getting to the source object. It will create the records, and it will load the data using the mapping into the correct fields. And after, it will run every transformation individually for each field. And the target object is required for every process. This is where you want to write or save the data or update if necessary. Because if you're using some migrations, you can update the data automatically. It's absolutely the same as the source type definition, because you need to define the own settings of the target parameters, and that's all. And of course, the workflow is so simple as well. Just save the data somewhere. So it was the main basic things. So I will show you how it's work actually in the real world. So there is the downloadable exercises I showed you before. This is the folder, actually containing 4 folders with N1 to N4. And this is just the M4 folder I want to show you right now. And we're going further, the more complex modifications, modifiers, and the migration part. So this is just the beginning. So as I mentioned, we're working with YAML configuration files. It's look like in this way. So you have a source, you have to define a type for it, you have a target, and you have to define a type for it as well. And of course, there is a resource attribute where you need to define where is the file actually located you want to use. We will use, our examples is the names.csv file, which is containing 5,000 different names in 4 countries, with some kind of population data and gender information and the country code. So that's our basic sample, I think. So that's how a normal and a really easy mETL configuration files looks like. Of course, we have a field list. So we have a country code field, a name field, a type field, a gender, and a population. And we use the map as I showed it before. So because the country code is located in the first column, the mapping will be 0. And because the name is in the second column, the mapping will be 1, and so on. And we want to convert this file into a JSON file right now. And we want it to call it output.json. So if we go into the console, and I am in this folder right now, we can use this configuration, just type mETL, and giving one parameter only to the configuration file. And if we run this, it will automatically generate the JSON object, the JSON file with the given data. So that simple is it. Okay, right now, it was the first example. You can see it's in one line. Okay, but we can fix that. So in the second file, you can see I added a compact attribute to the target, which will says it should be pretty printed. So it will indent right. So if it write it again with the second example, it will print this information. Is really cool. So right now, if I refresh this, it will be normally lookable and absolutely understandable. Okay, but if you see this, we have another problem right now, because the files is containing the header. So that's not cool. So the third example is actually showing you, if you want skip a row or more, there is a skip row attribute of the source, and you can actually skip that row. And that's easy, is it? So I will run this as well. And after, I won't run every file. I'm just showing what it does and how it's works. Of course, in your computer, it's better if you run, and you can see the result of everything. So go back. Okay, we have one more problem. I mentioned before, okay, we have types, and I don't define it in anywhere. So every object is a string right now, and you can see it in the output JSON file, because the population is containing integer values, but in here, we're using a string. So if you wanted to convert into an integer, we can actually just define a type attribute with the type name. So in here, like type integer, and it will resolve the issue as well. It will be, okay, if we write this information into a CSV or an Excel file, it's not important. But if you want to write this data into a database, it will be useful, because if the table isn't actually exist, it can create the table for you as well. And the table's type will be that type you actually write in here. So what you define in here. Okay, in the 5 example, of course, we have a header row attribute in the source level as well. So you can define which row is containing the header. Because if you know the header, you don't need to define the mapping, because it will look for some columns which has the absolute similar name. It's useful because if you're using different, some Excel files or some CSV files, and somebody is just changing the order of the columns, it will work after it. So you don't need to define an exact mapping for every time. You can use it and it will work automatically. If somebody is changing the columns, and it will find the correct data and it will work as well. Okay, one more example before we're going through. I have a PostgreSQL database open right now. There is no table right now. And the 6th example is show you, we read this file, so we're working in this file again, but we choose a different target. So now I want this to load into a database. I need to define the connection URL to this database. So right now I'm using a mETL user with a mETL password, and it's running locally. And my database is just calling just mETL. And I want to create a table called names, and I want it to be created if it not exists. And if it exists, I want it to replace and recreate it. So it will erase almost every information every time, but it will work. So I show you this as well. So if I call this, and I will see the table was created, and it containing these informations. It was quick, it was good, and working. Okay, you have the option to write transformations. So you can define transformations and in individually every field. And you can use multiple transform steps for every field. For example, our country code is like C and who and so on. So we have the option to, okay, if I found this value, I want to change it to Slovakia. If I find this value, I want to change it to Hungary, and so on. And as I mentioned before, we have more than 20 built-in different transformations. This is just some of the examples. In the documentation is containing everyone, which is absolutely built in right now, and there's a lot. Of course, you can define multiple transformations. So for example, in the gender, I can use the same transformations as well. For the F value, I want to change to female and M as male. And because there are some names, which is female and male names as well, I want to clear all of the other values and just clear it. So it will only contains just the female and the male values, and will remove the both and the undefined values. Okay, and one more thing. You can see in here, I'm using this base attribute. So in mETL configuration files could be extended to each other. So if you write your own mETL configuration, you can redefine any part of the previous configuration file. And in here, you don't need to redefine the target and the resource and the names, and those attributes you don't want to change. Okay, of course, we have more transformations. For example, you can title, or make some kind of, convert it into title case, or you can lower case, or you can make some kind of changes. Or there is a transformation which is called homogenize, which is actually remove all accent from a word. Or there is a stem transform, which is just create a stem from the word. So we have so many different transformations. And of course, we can choose a different target type again. So for example, now I will create a fixed with text file. It's really cool because it's really easy to read. I will show you this. So it's created a text file, and that's all. So this is a normal fixed text with file. It's really cool. Really easy. And so you have the option to convert files into one type into the other. It's really easily in here. So, okay, I can work in this file until I want, and if it's necessary, or I go into production, I have the option to change the target area. It's really cool. And of course, if you don't need some column, you don't need to define. So if you don't want to use the population column, you don't need to define, you don't want to read this information. You can absolutely just skip. I will show this as well. So if you don't define the, as you can see, the population data between the configurations, it won't be in the output file as well. And as I mentioned, we have a homogenize transformation. It will remove all accent of the file. So you can see it's creating a new column, and it's absolutely the same, but not containing the accent and the special characters. And you can use it for better Liebenstein distance calculation or some other areas. Okay, of course, it was the beginning, but you can use this tool as a reporting tool as well. because if you write your own SQL queries, you can create really good Excel files, which is containing those informations you want to show. And you don't need to write their own conversation tool, which is one, okay, you're using a CSV and you want to convert it to Excel, it will do it automatically. So for example, you can use a source database and you define the URL. You define the table you want to read. Okay, in this method, we'll actually read all of the data from the database. And I need to define the fields I want to use. As you can see, I changed the mapping because if you're working with a database, you need to use the column name of the database. So you will use the correct column name. And of course, I want to create a target and an Excel file. And I wanted to call it an output.xls. And the sheet name should be all. So if I write this command and execute it, it will create this file, and I will show you what is it. Okay, I don't have an Excel, so the preview will show the information. So, okay, that's all. This is the informations. And now it's actually in an Excel file. Of course, it's really great, but we usually don't really want to use our own whole table content and just write it, because the table could contain almost 1 terabyte data or more, so that's not normally. Of course, you can write your own queries. So you can define, instead of defining the table attribute, you can define a statement attribute and write their own queries. Or if you want to create a little bit more better solution, you can use the resource attribute here as well and write your own queries in a different file. For example, in this material, I write my own query, which is just give you back the first 100 names, first 100 last name for every country based on population. So that's all. And okay, I will run this. So the result will be a little bit shorter, but it will work as well with magic. So it's nothing extra here. It's really easy and really just the beginning. Okay, that's a bit more in the interesting part. So as I mentioned, you can use it as a reporting tool. So not just to save the data you want to show in another format. It has some kind of magic attributes as well. For example, there is a dynamic shield field attribute where you need to define one column, or actually multiple columns, and it will create the Excel file to split this information into several sheets. So for example, I will use the country code column to create actually a sheet for every country. So I show you as well, because it's cool. So now if I open this Excel file, you can see there is a all. I used it before. It's containing all information, but in bottom in here, you can see there is just the sheet, which is containing the Czech Republic data. In here, just the Hungarian data, just the Polish names, and the Slovakian names. And to do that actually in normal way in Python, it's really hard. So you need to develop and use the XLSX package, which is actually horrible. So not really easy, but in here you have the opportunity to do it really easily. And I have another source file for testing. This is a Foursquare file. This is a Foursquare API file. I just save it. So this is a multi-dimensional resource actually, just a JSON file. And I just want to show you it because of the mapping. So in the previous slides, you could see actually the mapping is working in that way. But I want to show you something more, which is cool. There are some magic attributes in the mapping. For example, the star. The star is doing that, so it will collect all information. It will generate a list. If there is not a single dictionary in the given area, it will create a list, and it will contain all of these informations. So it will be an iteratable object after all. And of course, you can write your own transformations as well, because it's easy to extend and really cool if you can do that. So you can write your own methods, and you can write anywhere. So you can use actually your own types, if it's necessary. You can use your own transformations. You can use everything, it's your own. And really easy to write. In here, this is the format number function. So only you need just to import the method.utils package and write a function, which is get a field. And the only thing you need to do is return the field after all, and to add this decorator. So right here, the format number is working that way. If the field value is empty, it will return the field and won't make any kind of changes. And after we're using the phone numbers package to define, to parse this value and convert it into a national format. So that's all, and you can use and write your own transformations, so simple. Okay, so it was just the beginning. We have a source and we have a target, of course, but we can do some things with these two, but that's not enough. And of course, we have the third component called manipulation. It's exactly between the source and the target object. So after the source is finished their transformations, so the transformation steps are over, it's coming to the manipulation steps, and after the manipulations is over, it's just receive the data to the target, so it will just send it and it will save the data. And the manipulations has 4 different categories. The first is the modifier, which will actually modify one correct record. The filter, which will actually make some kind of filtering. It will delete records, or delete columns actually, so it's working in the horizontal and the vertical way as well. And the expander, which will create more line or more record. For example, if you iterate your lists, as I showed before, or when you want to use multiple files as a source. Because us actually just use one file, but we can use as many as we want. And the aggregator is, I think, the most easy one, is just make some kind of calculations and groups. So the manipulations is just make changes, that's all, and every time it gives you the whole record. So in here, not like the transformation step to operate every transformation individually in every field, it will operate actually together, so you know every field values. So you can make some kind of changes and make some kind of modification based on the whole record's values and the state of the records. Of course, there is the filter. It's easy. You have some kind of condition, and you can drop or keep records by those conditions. So it's easy. And the expand, as I mentioned before, if you want to add multiple values, for example, iterate over a list, or just add multiple files. And the aggregator, when you want to calculate some kind of informations, like you want to summarize or aggregate, or you want to just calculate the count of the number of the records, or just melting them. Okay, let's show some example for this as well. Here, this is the second folder. Oof. I will close everything before. Okay, we will use the same source file. So it will be the similar, because it's more easier to understand. This is a normal manipulation step, a normal modifier. It's called set. You can set values, one or multiple fields in one time with the given values. So it will actually just concatenate these two fields value actually. So that will be really easy. I will show you because okay. Oh, and I created an XML. Really cool. So it will generate this value. Because of the country code value was PL, and of course the type was last name, so it just concatenated these two fields value. If we put a transformation step before, which is changes the country code names into the longer format, and we use it, it will generate a really similar result, but as you can see, okay, it will contain now the longer format of the country code. Okay, it's really easy. As I mentioned before, the transformations run before. So the transformations will run first. And after all the transformations of the given whole record will be over, it will go to the manipulation step. So it will be set the longer format of the country code and will concatenate these values. Of course, we concatenated we wanted, and we want to get rid of some kind of records. We have a drop field, which is actually just remove columns. So after we make this transformation and created a new column value, actually a column which was empty because there is no mapping and no default value described, it will actually after just drop these two fields. So if we see it, and just check, okay, and yeah, I changed the, okay, output. Now we don't have the country and the type attribute, but we have the concatenated value. And of course, we can drop values as well. For example, we have a filter step, which is called drop by condition, and you have to define one condition. It's right here, is empty. And in which field? The gender. So it will remove every field that the gender isn't filled out. That's all. And before we go over, I want to say you something. This YAML configuration is really cool because really easy to do. And it's better because it not requires developer skills. Of course, if you want to create something more complex, you need to write your own manipulations or transformations. But in the basic way, it could be really easy to define and really easy to learn. And most of all, it's really cool because if you write this thing, you can extend it and you can just give to your project manager to, okay, if the file is changing, you can do your desk, but it will work. And that's really cool. And because the method is written in Python, you can use actually these sources and target as native objects. So, for example, you don't have to import the CSV package. If you're working in CSV, you can import mETL.utils and you can use it as a reader or a writer as well. So in a normal web application or in a normal migration file you want to use in the future, you can use this software in the Pythonic way as well. Okay, so this is, it will drop by condition. If the gender is empty, it will drop that value. Okay, I will show that. Why not? Okay, it's the same in the output file. So we have only filled out values in the gender column right now. It's removed every value which was empty. Okay, let's see an aggregator. So we can make an aggregator, so maybe summarize the population data. So we need to define the group we want to use. It will be the country, the type, and the gender. We need to define the value field, which is containing the number we want to summarize. And we need to define the target field name we want to write this information. And for example, in a count field. And it will do it. Okay, what was the out? Okay, it's done. And of course, there is the keep by condition as well. So you can actually keep by some kind of records based on, okay, is equal then value. So this is a filter as well, because you will filter these records. And one more, we have a melt expander, which will expand the records. I think you know this command from pandas. Okay, everybody knows this command, what it does? Okay, I will show you. It's really easy, so I will run because it's easier to say what is happening here. So we have these informations, and the meld is only does to use an attribute and a value. So it will expand this information to every attribute in a different row. So for example, it was the group name, and this name's gender attribute value is M, and this name's population data is 1. So you can use it to change the perspective of your data. And one more interesting thing. So there are some times if you have to work with multidimensional or multi-level lists. These are my favorites. For example, I think 3 weeks ago, I get a file which was containing every Polish address data, and that file was an XML file, which was in absolutely so many multidimensional levels. So in country, before counties, before and so on, it was almost 11, I think it was 11 level. Until you can find your data you want to retrieve. It was actually the street names. So it could happen as well. So I created a file, actually before, which is containing 4 group, and 4 group is containing just the country code and the country in the longer format, and every object is containing the names we have. It's not really cool because we can't say, okay, I want the names, because you don't have the names. You need the country code or the country data as well. So you need to expand this list and create one level list from it. And in here, in mETL, there is a list expander modifier or expander, which can do that. And you can do that to, okay, I will go through with this main list, which is containing just the countries. And I have some fields like country code, country name, population, and so on. And I have the names because on that level, I have a names. And it should be a list. And I need a need item because I want to expand this information into one item. So exactly, I will show the 8 first because it's really hard. So the 8, if you just want to work in this file and just retrieve the country code, country, and the name, which is a list, we will get a file like this. Okay, we have the country code and the longer name of the country, but we have a string with a lot of lists, which is containing dictionaries, and it's converted into string. Okay, so that's not cool. We want to, it will be in several different rows, so multiple these rows. Okay, if I run the 9th example, it will do it. Almost done. So we have multiple lines now, and every line is containing one dictionary on that level. So that's what the list expander does. And of course, after all, we can absolutely delete the names field because we won't use it again. And there is another modifier, it's called setWithMap, which will can set multiple fields in the same time. So for example, if we have a complex field, like this dictionary, we just put it here, we call this complex field as a name item, and we want to set the values of the name field and the population, and we have to define 2 mappings to that data. And after, if we do this thing, it will create the correct data we wanted to see. So first of all, we expanded the list into several records. After all, we make a mapping to set the values of the fields we wanted to set, and it's done.
What if one of the values is not present? Let's say the population is not there.
Sorry?
If one of the values is not present, let's say the population is not there.
Okay, normally the mapping is working really easily, so if it's not found one value, it will be empty. It will be empty every time. So that's why it's really cool, because you don't need to check every time and write your own code. For example, an XML file. In the 6th level, there is an object which call it population or not. If not, it will be none. And after all, you can use a filter or anything. Just filter those records, which is not cool for what you want, actually. So that's how it's actually working. And actually in the target type you can define, and actually in the source you can define as well, to how you handle the null values in a database. So for example, it convert it to null, convert it to empty string, or just ignore it because it won't go for you. So that was the second package. I will show you the third as well, because this is really similar, just a little bit different. The first example, when I'm using the resource as a Foursquare API call, I want to get the nearest venues from this conference hall. And because this response not containing so much actually data we want to retrieve, we will save this file into a folder. And I will actually save it into the venues.json files, what I actually downloaded. And I wrote my own modifier, and I called it download venue. So this is the code. The mETL.utils was imported. And I have only, I extended the modifier class because I want to create a modifier. And I have to define only the modify function. So only thing I want to do, just make a request from the API. I put the, actually the OAuth token here, and the ID of the venue here, and convert it into JSON, and I save it into my source folder. My source folder actually containing some of these records. So one of these records I will download. We'll see in that way. This is a normal API result of the Foursquare API. So that's all. It will download a map in a folder, multiple files for every venues. And you can write, for example, another mETL configuration, which will just retrieve this data and write into a CSV file. And the only difference, I added an append file attribute here to not write over and over again those files, just append every time. But you can actually define a database in here on an Excel file and just continue that file, so you can absolutely use this as so many times. And the other difference is I didn't define a resource. Where is data come from? Because there is a command in here, I will show you. It's called, okay, I'm the correct place, mETL walk. It's working on that way. You need to define a configuration and a folder. And if you give them a folder, it will work on every file. So for example, in here, if I run the second, and okay, I need to define the folder. It's this configuration was executing every file in that folder. And actually, it just created our resource file, so collected those informations we wanted. So we can use as mETL if we have so many similar files and wanted to just concatenate into one table or concatenate into and put into one CSV or one Excel file, you can do it really easily. Okay, let's go for the presentation. Okay, and of course, we have migrations. It's really cool because in every process we actually ran before, we have the option to write a -t parameter from the command, which will generate a pickle migration file. And you can use this migration file to make differences between migrations. So you can check how many new records, how many updated, how many unchanged, or how many deleted records do you have in the given migrations. And of course, if you can actually use it to refresh data in your database or add data to your database and not load these data again and again. I'll show you how it's working in the normal world. So in the first folder, I have 2 JSON. Every JSON is containing countries. I have about 250 countries here. It's containing the country code, the language, if you know the local name, the currency, the English name, and the capital of the given country. This is the normal data, so this is cool actually. And of course, I have a new file, and I made some changes. I will show you what is the changes in here. Okay. Okay, the changes are the following. So I actually removed Albania. I added a Pirate Bay country. I removed Guatemala. And I changed in Hungary the currency from Hungarian forint to euro. And I removed South Africa as well. So this could be our changes file I want to show you. Okay, and there is a run.hash file which is containing how you can use it. So if you define this -t attribute and the name of the pickle file you want to create, it will create you a migration. And because my mETL configuration file not contains actually any kind of resource, I define here a -s parameter, which will be the resource file I want to use. So if I call this method, it will load these country codes into a database in the original format as we have. So in here, there is 239 different countries, and just for your information, you can see somewhere if I find, okay, maybe I find, okay, the Hungary currencies right now is Hungarian forint. Because I made that changes and I want to show it will update it in the correct way after all the process. So that's all. It's loaded. It's loaded because we added a current.json file like our resource. And these are just our informations. I want to load to the language, the locality, the currency, and so on. And this is our target. So it was a database, the normal connection URL as well. The table name is country. And I added the parameter like create table because it was run at the first time right now, so it created this table. When I run this migration again, it won't create and normally won't do anything. And of course, I have a key attribute because if you're using migrations, you need to define your own key values. So this is the primary key, but you can use multiple columns as your primary key as well. Because the migrations is working that way to save your or generate your primary key if you're using multiple columns and generate a hash value for every value you want to load into the given target. So we will have a unique ID and the hash code. So after we run this script again with the similar migrations, we can check this hash code is changed or not. So if this hash code is changed, some changes happened on the data. If there is new primary key or new identifier just pop up, we will add this record, and if not, we will just mark it as a deletable field. So that's all. So the third one, you can define a -m parameter to the method where you can put the previous migration. So using the -m parameter as a previous migration and the -t as the new migration. So right now, I will run this script. And the only thing is actually happened right now to do the changes we have. So if I'm coming back to the database, I can see the Hungary's currency is changed to euro, and the Pirate Bay country is actually added. But actually no deleting happened. That's really important. So we didn't delete these records. You can define you want to delete these records, but automatically it won't happen. It will just add and update these informations in your database you want. And okay, we have a migration pickle, and we have a new migration pickle file. And there is the method differences command, actually, this one. So you can add two different migration files to it, and it will show you what was the differences. So for example, right now we have the new migration, and we have the previous migration file, and it will say to us, okay, one LM is new, one LM is updated, we have so many unchanged records, and we have 3 in the deleted status. Okay, but I mentioned before, it's not deleting automatically. So if you want to delete automatically, or just want to get the primary keys of those records we need to delete, we can do it. To write another configuration file, which only needs to contain a target object, where you want to write this information. So for example, in the output.json file, I want to write those primary keys I need to delete after all. So this is the third one. The only difference is you need to add -d attribute and the configuration file. But if you're coming back here, you can see you can generate these attributes for the unchanged or the new values as well. So if you want to check the deleted values, you add the -d. If you want the new values, you use the -m, and so on. So if I'm running this, it will write again, but it will generate the output.json, which is containing those country codes which was deleted. And that's all. And one thing I want to actually show you, just about the capabilities. The mETL is able to do whole database migrations from one source to another. So this is an absolute different configuration file format, but you can use it. And you can actually copy any kind of database from a different database. So we actually use this tool. Okay, so we actually use this tool to load a MySQL database into a PostgreSQL database because we wanted to change the default database system, the default database architecture. And you can do it. So there is a database transfer or the mETL transform command you could actually execute. You need to define their own configuration files as well. You can define the source and the target URL, and you can define just the tables you want to move, but you can absolutely skip it and just copy all. And if you want to truncate some tables before, you can do it. And if you want to run any kind of script after or before, you can do it as well. So you can really easily do a whole migration from one database system to another. Okay, so that's it. Any question or? Okay. Yes?
I had to do a task where actually it's more or less 2 files which are meant to be to the relational database, and I had to join these files.
Yes, yes. In the manipulation steps, we have a join by method. So you can actually join these informations by two different files, and you can actually use absolutely different sources as well. So let me show you. This is the join by key modifier. In here, you won't see nothing. I think about how. Okay, it will be not so great, but you can do it. So there is a join by key modifier, and you can define another source you want to use, and it could be an absolutely different file. So you can join, for example, a CSV file into an Excel file as well, or anything. So you can do it. The only thing you need to define that source as well, and define the connection between the two files. So what is the key which actually need to be joined? And that's all, it will work. Any question? Yes?
What would happen when, for example, you convert data from, let's say, a CSV file to a database and find that? And there is an error. You showed us the example where you have the type as integer.
Yes.
And for example, when in the CSV file there is a string, will an error appear and will the data be partially inserted in the database, or will it be undone?
Okay. In the mETL level, it's really strict. So if you're defining something an integer, it will be converted into integer. So if you can't do the transformations, so if you can't do to load an integer value, it will be none. But if you know it could be happen some values which is not correct, you can load it into as a string, and you can write your own transformations to make these changes on the values you can actually make. And after you can convert it into the correct type. Because in the mETL field system, there is a final type attribute in every field. So, okay, it's a good example as well. So, right here, I will read a date object, but in the final step, I want to create a string. And, okay, I have some transformations to convert the type. And I can convert that, and I can make some kind of regular expression, or I can do almost anything for it. Or maybe if you write your own data, you just write your own mapping, and after the mapping, you can do anything. But there is a different step in the mETL process. So if the writing process has some kind of failure, it will end it automatically at the right moment. There is an attribute as called continue on error. If you put that, it will just logging you in the screen in the correct problems. But I didn't mention, but in the mETL, every transformation, every manipulation, every field has their own log attribute. So you can log in every transformation, every manipulation lab in any file you want. So if anything happen or anything not happen on that way that you want, you can get a log from it.
So yeah, I guess we'll have to wrap it up. So let's give a round of applause to Bence.
Thank you.